close the window now, we've got fresh air.
Yeah.
If I put the heating on, it's noisy from underneath. And
And it just gets stuffy trying to go.
Just have to breathe, just breathe.
just it's a very mild air to me.
if anyone's used their phones, obviously I did, because my phone was going at the beginning of the session. Could you just make sure you're on silent? And just a reminder about what the next break is for lunch. I think someone was saying, oh, it was the last break, not for lunch. So, but the next break is lunch. If you have booked for lunch, just go and sit where there's some cutlery when we finish, and someone will bring you something to eat. And the nuts thing, so please don't eat it.
Is there a break this afternoon?
Yes. So we'll be coming back after lunch at what, 2:30, Sudhana, is it?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
So lunch will be 2:30, and then will there be a little half an hour break? Or is it just? No, is it
straight
just
through an hour and a quarter.
an hour and a quarter? So 2:30 till. Not very fun.
Please sit. So, was your body drinking tea? Which body? Your inherently existent body, or your body merely imputed? So we come to realize, and I'm not saying that you can realize this this logic. It's quite difficult to overcome the way we normally see things. It's not going to happen overnight. We have to keep thinking about it over and over again. We have to read books like Heart of Wisdom and Ocean of Nectar and so on, and receive teachings. There's in the text that Modern Buddhism, there's a section there, the last chapter on ultimate bodhicitta in the sutra section. An excellent presentation of emptiness and how we can attain emptiness. And in the afternoon session we'll do some more meditations. But we begin with liberating prayer only.
May everyone be...
Very good, we'll do that one too.
O Blessed One, Shakyamuni Buddha, precious precious treasury of compassion, bestower of supreme inner peace, you who love all beings without exception, are the source of happiness and goodness, and you guide us to the liberating path. Your body is a wish-fulfilling jewel. Your speech is supreme purifying nectar, and your mind is refuge for all living beings. With folded hands I turn to you, supreme unchanging friend. I request from the depths of my heart, please give me the light of your wisdom to dispel the darkness of my mind, and to heal my mental continuum. Please nourish me with your goodness, that I in turn may nourish all beings with an unceasing banquet of delight. Through your compassionate intention, your blessings and virtuous deeds, and my strong wish to rely upon you, may all suffering quickly cease, and all happiness and joy be fulfilled, and may holy Dhamma flourish forevermore.
And so we can meditate. We can meditate how we create a concept, a conceptual mind of our body, a conceptual thought. Whenever we perceive, for example, the limbs, the head, the torso of our body, the parts of our body, we impute our body on the basis of perceiving any of the parts of our body. And yet when we search for an inherently existent body, we cannot find one. If we search for something that is body and not anything else, we fail to find it. And yet we normally grasp at our body as being inherently existent. That is, existing independently and from its own side. And yet when we search for that independently existent body, we cannot find it. All we find is the emptiness of our body. Our body's lack of existing inherently. And so we arrive at the conclusion: the inherently existent body that I normally see does not exist. Again, hold your mind on that one thought. The inherently existent body that I normally see does not exist. And then we can think, what is the body that I normally see? It is a mere imputation. The word mere means that and nothing else. A mere appearance to a conceptual mind. a mere conceptual thought. And nothing more. So now you can begin to arise from meditation. So we realize that we create conceptual thoughts of everything. Just on the basis of appearance of parts of things. So take for instance, for example, what is this? Flower. So you're saying I have a flower in my hand. Yes. Yes. Why do you say it's a flower? Why is it not a book? Yeah. So no pages, exactly. So the lack of pages is not a basis for imputing book. Or the lack of pages is not a basis for imputing flower. But what are the basis of imputing flower? Petals, yeah. But the thing is, if you say there's a real book, a real flower, a real flower in my hand, we'll be able to find it if we search for it, you right? If there's a flower there. And this is our problem. We always think there must be something coming from the side of the object. Otherwise, why do I think there's a flower there? There must be something coming from the side of this object. So let's begin. Let's search. Is that the flower? That's the petal. So here's another petal, and that's not the flower either. So let's get rid of all of the petals. Once I did this in North Carolina, and the person who had a beautiful rose garden says, "You're not coming to my garden." So we got rid of all the petals. What's left? This little, what do you call that? The what? Stamen. Okay, we'll say that's a stamen. Well, but the stamen's not a flower either. So we get rid of that. So what we're left with? Stem. Is the stem the flower? No, stem's just a stem. Oh, there's a little leaf. Is that the flower? No. And there's another piece of stem. That's not a flower either. That's a stem. There's nothing. What happened to the flower? You all said there was a flower there in my hand. Now, it's just empty space. What we realize is the flower is just an appearance to a conceptual mind that we create by seeing the petals and the stem and the stamen and so on. Apart from that, there is no flower. You know, when you're dreaming, and say you were dreaming of, someone bringing you a bunch of flowers, how do you know what's in their hand? It's the same thing. It's appearing to our dreaming mind, but we know there's no flowers there. When we wake up, there's no flowers there. But why do we think? We have a real feeling, this is really nice. Someone's bringing me flowers. Why do we think that it's flowers that they're bringing us? Why are flowers appearing? How do we know flowers are appearing in our dream? Sorry?
Our mind is telling us that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Our mind is telling us that.
Yeah, our mind's telling us. So we have, in our mind we have generic images, of everything. Flowers, trees, etc., etc. And so we compare what's appearing with this Rolodex of generic images until we find the one that fits most clearly. And say, oh, this is a card that says flowers, and then it's got all the shape of these things, and we can compare that with what's presenting, what's appearing in our dreams, and we think, oh yeah, this must be flowers. So someone's bringing me flowers, isn't that great? So we have real feelings. But actually there's nothing there. Because if there was something there, like we searched for the flower, we would have found it. If there was a real flower, other than just a thought, flower. So we know when we're waking up, but there's just a thought, flower. And then, when the same thing when we're so-called awake, if we awaken from our ignorance of self-grasping, it means we grasp everything as inherently existent, then we awaken and we realize, here there's no flowers, there's just thoughts of flowers and nothing else. So, we can say, oh, these are beautiful flowers, these are ugly flowers. Essentially, they're all the same. What we're experiencing is the appearance of the flower and its emptiness together. The appearance of the flower and its emptiness, its conventional nature that we establish because we have generic images of flowers and so on. We have a generic image of a microphone. And so we establish that it's appearing as a flower, but actually it's emptiness. We're perceiving both of these things together, the appearance and its emptiness. So its ultimate nature of the flower is it's not existing from its own side. Yeah, we established that, by pulling it apart. We could not finding it. We deconstructed what was appearing, and we couldn't find the thing that we thought was there. All we found is emptiness. And yet there was an appearance of the flower, and then we discovered its emptiness. And I think I said earlier, the appearance of something, the appearance of the object, and its emptiness are never separate. Never separate. So what we're experiencing in any moment is a whole bunch of appearances of things, objects, including ourselves, and the emptiness of these objects at the same time. But our problem is we don't realize the emptiness of the object. All we think is that the things that are appearing to me must be inherently existent. So we latch on to the conventional nature of things and think that's how they are. They're out there. We never think they're merely imputed by our own conceptual mind. Yeah, you understand this process. How we're just making up everything. Yeah? We have all kinds of appearances, and they all seem to be separate from our mind. Let me just read a little bit from here. The ultimate nature of, this is from Ocean of Nectar, the true nature of all things. The ultimate truth of all phenomena, such as produced phenomena, is their very nature. The ultimate nature of any phenomenon is its lack of inherent existence. So there's the conventional nature, which is the appearance of the phenomenon, but the phenomenon itself is its lack of inherent existence. Because they do not realize the ultimate nature of phenomena, living beings grasp at phenomena as being inherently existent. You understand that's what we do all the time. We never think this is just an appearance to my mind. We think, oh, it's out there, separate from my mind, and my mind is just experiencing it. So living beings grasp at phenomena as being inherently existent. This gives rise to delusions such as attachment and hatred, and these in turn give rise to contaminated actions that cause rebirth in samsara. So this failure to realize the emptiness of all phenomena, and instead we grasp at phenomena as inherently existent, we generate delusions, and we act upon these delusions, and we create contaminated actions, negative actions, that keep us trapped in samsara. These negative actions create potentialities, and potentialities ripen as suffering. And so we continue to experience suffering, which are just aspects of our own mind. Even the negative things that we think are negative, these are simply appearances to our own mind, but they create suffering in our mind. And so it goes on, life after life, until we waken up, until we begin to realize emptiness, that the things that we normally see do not exist. The self I normally see doesn't exist. They are mere imputations of things, mere imputations of a self. And on that basis, when we realize that, what are we worried about? Who is there, if I'm just a mere imputation, and I change what I'm imputing from this contaminated, horrible self to this contaminated, horrible, angry self filled with the mind of attachment. All I need to do is change what I impute, change the imputation I have of myself, and then I'll be free of attachment. I'll impute a pure person who is free of anger and attachment. And we just decide, that's who I am. And whatever appears to me, I'll use it to further improve this imputation. And eventually, I'll be able to impute not just a pure person with a pure mind, but also a pure world. Because then, what appears to an angry mind? What appears to an impure, angry mind? An impure, angry world. And so, like I said, there is no world out there waiting for us to discover it. We're creating it every moment. You're creating this whole room for yourself. Each person is creating this whole room for themselves. And so all we need to do is think differently. Get rid of these minds of anger and attachment, which we can do because once we realize emptiness, that the ultimate nature of everything and everyone is their emptiness. Even though they're appearing, their conventional nature is appearing, what lies behind that is their emptiness. So that actually what's happening is they're appearing out of their emptiness. And the nice thing is that all emptinesses are the same. The emptiness of you is different from the emptiness of someone else, but their nature is both the same, just emptiness. So when we begin to relate to the ultimate nature of things rather than just the appearance of things, we come to realize that everything is the same. So why do we prefer one person to another when ultimately they're both the same? Emptiness, appearing as a person. On that, once we understand that, we understand how it is possible to free our mind from thinking, this is my enemy, or this is the object of my desirous attachment. Yeah. And so we ask ourselves the question, what am I being angry about? What am I being attached to? If ultimately it's just emptiness. And we can even ask ourselves the question, well, who's getting angry? Who is there to be angry? Who's there to be angry with? And when we realize that, then anger just doesn't arise. It doesn't appear. It's like shouting at the wind. Yeah. And the same with developing attachment to things and places and people. If they're ultimately they're all the same, it doesn't matter. And so then we can be content with whatever we have. And we think, I don't need anything else. Imagine if we come to that conclusion, I don't need anything else. What a relief that would be. We don't have to go running down to Liverpool One with our credit card, seeking the next object of desire, when ultimately we just stay at home and just realize our own mind. So, all the misery in this world arises from not knowing the ultimate nature of phenomena. With wisdom, we can fully understand the nature of phenomena, and then we will be free from every suffering in the three realms. Therefore, if we want to be free from the sufferings of samsara, and you just think of the human sufferings alone. We have sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, being separated from things we like, having to encounter and endure things we don't like, never finding satisfaction. We spend our whole life searching for satisfaction, never finding it. And then we die and take rebirth all over again. And this is our samsara, our uncontrolled rebirth. And we'll never put an end to it. We'll never exist as a person free from suffering until we realize emptiness. Because, particularly we grasp at ourself as inherently existent. It's almost like we want to bring ourselves into existence, to exist inherently. And we spend so much time and energy virtually from the time we're born and throughout our life trying to create our inherently existent self. Yeah. So when we think, and we surround ourselves with other things like possessions, and we think they're mine. Whose are they? Mine. My inherently existent person who's owning this inherently existent car, pen, television set, friend, etc., etc. Whenever we're thinking mine, we're thinking of an inherently existent self and that inherently possesses other inherently existent things, phenomena. And none of this is true. So what happens when we think mine? We get terrified in case we lose the things that we possess. So I'm terrified in case someone else will think of them as mine. So we don't like to lend things to other people in case they forget to return them, and then they think that, they start thinking that's mine. And when we think, well, it can't be yours, it's mine. And so it's time to bring it back. And so on and so forth. So in order to think mine, we've got to have an inherently existent view of ourselves, that we exist as just who I am. It's just who I am. And I exist in exactly the way in which I think about myself. Like, if you imagine you're walking across Aigburth Drive, you want to go to the park, and suddenly this truck comes rushing down the road, 60 miles an hour, and you're caught in the middle of the road, and you're about to be squished. And what are you thinking? What are you thinking in that moment? Oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. In that moment, we have a vivid image of the person who's going to die, who's going to be squished. And we have a very clear image of this inherently existent person that we grasp at. Or, let's say, someone gives you really good news. And you're so excited, you're so elated that this is the best thing you've ever heard that's going to happen to you. And this is a person that you're excited about. In that moment, you tend to have a clear image of yourself that you normally see. This is one of the difficulties in realizing the emptiness of ourself, is that we find it difficult to really get a clear image of the inherently existent self. It doesn't appear very often, it's pretty sneaky. It hides away, trying to convince you that you've no self-cherishing. There's no self to cherish, so you've no self-cherishing. But all our actions are simply about cherishing, or mainly about cherishing ourselves. But the self that we normally grasp at appears most vividly when we have these extremes of emotion, either a real extreme fear or extreme of elation. If, for example, if someone's humiliating you, then you want to protect this self from this humiliation. You don't want this feeling, this devastating, this speech that will devastate your concept of yourself. You don't want to hear this. You want to protect yourself from this. In the same way, if you felt that the ground was opening up in front of you or underneath you, and you're falling from a great height, you would think, oh, I need to protect myself. So in those moments you have a clear image of who you are. Or at least you have just a clear image of who you are. But then we think, I'm going to inherently die, or I'm going to inherently become better. Here I am inherently existing in this moment, but in the next moment, because I've got this good news, I'll be inherently existent in that new situation, where I'll be inherently existent again. So throughout our life, we're just grasping at this inherently existent person, which doesn't exist, other than a mere imputation. And so again, the way we initially discover this is to go on a search for the self that we normally see. Would you like to do this? Well, even if you don't, that's what we're going to do. So just take a few moments, sitting in good meditation posture. Take a few moments just to watch the rhythm of your breathing. Just allowing your mind to settle. Not being concerned with what's happening outside or what's going to happen next. You're just enjoying this moment of peace. And then begin to consider how you normally view yourself as just existing from your own side, existing inherently, completely independent of your mind. And you're thinking, it's just who I am. And you will continue to exist even though your mind is not thinking about you. It's almost as if you're unchanging and permanent, not affected by anything or not affecting anything. You just exist. And this is who you are. And it's a composite of all, not just your physical form, but all your qualities and aspects of your mind, all your past history, your relationships with other people, your relationships with place, and other things, your things you enjoy. So spend a few moments developing this clear image of the self that you normally see. If you were looking at a group photograph, you wouldn't just think, when you see the image of yourself there, you wouldn't just think, oh, I'm a piece of paper or with some shape and colour on it. You would think, I have all these qualities. And that's who I am. It's just who I am. So really try to have a clear image of the person, yourself, that you normally see. And so again, we can go on a search. We could search within your body, within your mind, or separate from these two. And again, it's very easy to show that there's no single part of your body that is yourself. You're not your skin, your hair, or whatever. It's not the collection of parts of your body that is yourself. Because the collection is just a collection of parts. If you take away the parts, there is no collection. And also we say, my body, implying that me, the self, is the owner of my body. And body is the thing that is owned. The owner and the thing that is owned can never be the same. So whenever we think my body, we're thinking of a self that is an owner. And it must be different from body. So we cannot say that yourself is your body. And we can look within the mind. Mind is just a stream of thoughts. And we have all kinds of different types of mind. But we only have one self. And again, we also say, my mind. I made up my mind, I changed my mind. So again, we cannot say that yourself is your mind, or your mind is yourself. So it cannot be the collection of your body and your mind together, because both of these are non-selves. We've already shown your body is not yourself, and your mind is not yourself. So the two together cannot be yourself either. So the only place left to look is for yourself that is separate from these two, separate from your body and mind. But again, you can never think of yourself without one or the other appearing. As soon as you think me, self, I, either your body or your mind appears. And also, if yourself could exist separately from body and mind, again, you could say myself is on the beach in the Bahamas, but my body and mind are here, which is ridiculous. And so we've searched in every possible location, and all we have found is the unfindability of ourself. So if you turn your mind back to that image that you started with, that image of yourself, that self that seemed to exist separately from your mind, from its own side, inherently, you realize that inherently existent self that you normally see cannot be found. It cannot be found because it is unfindable. And that unfindability is a generic image of emptiness. So when you realize this emptiness of yourself, and you're thinking about that image of yourself that you normally see, once you realize this emptiness, that image of yourself begins to dissolve away, as if it's just dissolving into light, until finally it just disappears completely, it stops appearing. And all that appears now is this space-like emptiness of yourself. And this space-like emptiness of yourself is yourself's lack of inherent existence. This emptiness of yourself is yourself's lack of existing from its own side, its lack of inherent existence. So place your mind on this emptiness of yourself and think, this is the only true nature of me. The emptiness of me. Myself's lack of inherent existence. So just allow your mind to relax into that understanding. Sometimes when we're realizing the emptiness of ourself, we experience great joy. As if we know that we can write on a blank slate. Sometimes we feel fear, anxiety, as if we're thinking, I don't exist at all. Either of these minds is okay. And after a little while, you can ask yourself the question, who is meditating on the emptiness of myself? Who is meditating on the emptiness of myself? And you may realize that the answer is just a name, whatever your name is, or mere thought, me. Mere meaning that and nothing else. Mere conceptual thought, me. Mere name, mere conceptual thought, me. So now you can begin to arise from meditation. We can perhaps drive this realization home by coming to understand how there is no inherently existent you and how you exist in dependence upon mind. If you just think that everyone in this room is thinking about you, it's probably what we think anyway. Imagine if everyone in this room was thinking about you. Would they just be thinking about one version? The version that you see? So if you think your name, like Joe, there's only one version of Joe, and there's 40 people thinking about that same version, and so you somehow or other exist completely independently of anything else? Or will everybody have their own version of Joe? So there's 40 versions of Joe. There's 40 Joes. Which is the most valid one? Is there one that is more valid than anything? Is Joe's version of Joe more valid than anything else? Yes, no? No. Why no? They're all valid, yes. With respect to the mind that's experiencing Joe or thinking about Joe, any mind that's thinking about Joe is valid, provided they're thinking about the parts of Joe, not the parts of Sarah. So there has to be a valid basis for creating the thought, Joe. But apart from that thought that is created on the basis of thinking about the parts of Joe, or the causes of Joe, or whatever, apart from that thought, there is no Joe. Not even the one that Joe has. There's no Joe other than when we're thinking about Joe himself, there's no Joe other than the thought Joe. And when you're thinking about Joe, there's no Joe other than the thought that you're having of Joe. And you realize this applies to yourself. There's no you other than the thought that you're having about you. Yeah? Yes. You can nod your head, it's allowed. Yeah, I don't want to think I've been sitting here. You come to realize that there is no you other than the thought you, or the name you, which is amazing, because you realize how you create yourself, and you can recreate yourself day by day. This is how you can become whatever you want. You can become an enlightened being. If you were inherently existent, you could never become an enlightened being. If enlightenment was inherently existent, you could never accomplish enlightenment. You come to realize we can only become enlightened because all phenomena are the nature of emptiness, including yourself. So we can create this pure world simply because the ultimate nature of all phenomena is their emptiness. The ultimate nature of you is your emptiness, so you can create a pure being, a pure mind. The ultimate nature of all other phenomena is their emptiness, so you can create a pure world. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So, but like I say, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of work that we have to put in order to get to that stage. We have to contemplate this emptiness of ourself and other phenomena all the time, day by day, even when we're out of meditation, particularly when we're out of meditation. You know, the Buddha said, when we're out of meditation, we should view every phenomenon as like a dream, every situation as like a dream. Yeah. So imagine you're at work and your boss comes to you and said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to let you go." And you think, "Oh, it's just a dream." What's the or someone comes to you and say, "Here, I've got the winning lottery ticket, but you can have it." "Oh, it's just a dream." You get really sick. You think, "Oh, it's just a dream. Don't need to bother. Don't need to worry about it." You see how all our anxiety, all our grasping at things, particularly ourself, begins to dissolve away. And we just abide in a state of peace and contentment all the time. So think about that when you're having lunch. this is just a dream. And my dream self is just having my dream lunch. What else could there be? If you check, try and find your lunch. Okay. Well, as I was late in finishing before, I think we'll finish early.
It's kind of just stay where you are so no one stands.
I'm sorry?
I don't want anyone to stand up, just need to take a picture.
Oh yeah.
So before you go.
Sure. You want people to gather around?
Yeah, carry on. As you were.
As I am. As who was?
Like, you just close your eyes and you imagine you pretend you meditate.
We're all pretending to meditate.
Yeah, please, yeah, just go. Don't look at it. Just close your eyes. This is all. And if anybody doesn't want to be on social media, please tell me. And I'll cut you out. Here. Thank you again for it.
Okay. So we can relate to each other on the basis of name. But then we think, well, what lies behind that name? Nothing. Until we think, we see how we give meaning to everything. Things don't come into our life with their own meaning. We impose meaning on things. And we do that because they lack inherent existence. So all we're doing is training our mind to create new meanings, different meanings of ourself and everything around us. And it's that easy. Thank you so much.